Sick Bump with Chris Germany continues right now on this week's episode of Crowd's Fault. Now I think more it's it is pretty much everyone's in on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
more nowadays.
Taken with a wink, wink.
Taken
nudge,
with a
maybe.
wink, wink, and a nudge, nudge. Yeah.
So.
And actually, I did the research. You want to know why the whole stigma? Because Bobby the Brain Heenan has the greatest quote ever. He's like, when someone asks me if wrestling's fake, you know what I tell them? Who said it was real?
Right.
And he has a great point. No one's so back in the day, way back before you started wrestling, way back before it was even on TV, it was going with the boxing matches.
Right.
And it was basically, it started out, yes, it was scripted, it was booked, but the stigma that's carried around all these years came from people that would gamble on it.
Right.
So these gambling addicts would have a bad taste in their mouth for wrestling because they lost all their money. They spread the stigma that it's fake, or they reveal that it's fake, and then wrestling has just this reputation. But this is what I tell people when people tell me wrestling's fake. You know what I tell them? It's a show. It's a show just like every other show. Sure. Law and Order SVU's not fucking real. Why aren't you giving that shit?
People are watching that shit.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm watching something that's just live in front of people. And that's what you can't fathom, that people can just pretend.
That's where the art comes.
But you're going to go see Hamilton and bug the shit out of me that I need to go see that shit, But yeah, so it concerns me as a wrestling fan that we ignore it. But at the same time, I think Vince likes playing with our minds. Because WrestleMania, I think, was supposed to go down completely differently.
Okay, so to kind of get back to the subject, what we would
I'm
do
sorry.
No, that's fine. What we would do is we would set up these angles, and then you go to the big show, and the baby faces all win. Well, people were talking about the Jon Oliver thing, and the fans were probably getting a little riled up, and he was like, well, you know what? This is what I'll do. I'll give them what they want.
Yeah.
And that's the smartest thing he possibly could have done. Because, hey, man, don't look at the guy behind the curtain, right? The whole Wizard of Oz, hey, look, we're giving you what you want. Everybody pay attention to this.
And it's worked because no one's talking about it anymore. We're probably the last podcast that's going to talk about it. It's my nicotine loss, and it just leaves white crust on the side of my mouth. And you know this,
It's
Jake.
you sitting in awe of Chris's awesome stories.
I can't be
drawing flies over here.
I got stories that'll curl your toes.
I can't. We'll end on one.
I want to hear a fucked up story.
But do you think Vince keeps gonna keep playing the game that way, where we ignore everything because all we want is the big superstar to have the title, and he's just gonna get away with this?
Vince is a master manipulator.
He really is, man.
Master. And I'll tell you what, who is coming up a really tight second is his daughter, Stephanie.
Yeah.
And she's got a really good support there with Hunter in there. And I just, they were all really sweet to me when I was working for them. And, of course, 5-6 days, and then we have to turn around and go home, and they're going back to New York City. But they know what they're doing, man. They're not fucking around anymore.
Yeah.
They know exactly what they're doing. And, I don't know if maybe they changed some of those angles at the very last to give them what they wanted.
Jon Oliver definitely changed the tone of the whole weekend, because after the NXT development pay-per-view on Friday, all of a sudden WWE is posting up pictures of Triple H hugging the boys.
Now that I'll watch.
Yeah.
Now I'm not a member of the network, and I don't watch regularly, on Monday nights or whatever. But if I get a chance and somebody tells me to go watch it, I will watch a full match in NXT, because that's closer to what we did in the 90s. Right. And those kids are doing it for the passion. Used to, when I was coming up in the business, if they wanted to put you in a developmental contract, I mean, it was easy. You're going up there for $100,000 minimum. Well, now these kids are doing these developmental contracts for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year, and it's 20 years later, and they're barely making it, man.
I mean, some of the development people have already been wrestling for like 10 plus years out in the indie
independent
scenes.
circuit.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. If you're in Texas and you miss old time wrestling, go to some of the independent shows. You can find them on the internet, on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
And I cannot believe how they pack these shows in nowadays in the independent circuit. Like if we were packing the independent circuit back in the 90s like that, hell, I mean, I might be driving a nicer car. Right? But
it's crazy.
But it's changed so much.
Yeah.
And as far as the whole, should Vince employ these people or not?
Yeah.
I don't know how he's getting away with it. I don't know how.
Well, his wife does work in the White House right now.
And God bless him.
God bless him.
You know? I mean,
insane.
everybody's working an angle, man.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's in stand-up comedy or it's in pro wrestling,
It's like Idiocracy.
He's got the best angle.
He does.
And he knows.
He
what
played the cards before
Oh,
anybody.
Kurt still wrestles?
Who?
He played.
Third angle joke. He's got the best
He
angle.
just retired. He just retired,
Oh,
like
sweet.
last
Did he
night.
wrestle this weekend?
His Sunday was his last match.
Oh shit!
And he
I
lost
can't believe
it.
he's doing that.
He was in that movie.
Well, you always
the,
go out on your
Warrior.
back, bro. Always
do?
go out on your back.
Yeah.
That's the rule. If you're leaving a
You pass the
territory,
torch?
90% of the time you're going out on your back, man.
No.
You know,
Oh,
lose or
yeah.
leave town matches, or a blow off if you're heel for a
Bret
bit.
Hart didn't want to do that. Got tackled by a fan.
Didn't
Look at
Ric
that.
Flair went out against Shawn Michaels that way,
Ric
didn't
Flair.
Listen, that's really old school.
he? Yeah.
I mean, there's some guys that won't do it. I mean,
Well, how are you gonna stay on top of it?
Hogan still hasn't done it. Hogan still hasn't done it.
well, I don't think the Undertaker didn't either, did he?
Undertaker gave his streak to Lesnar. Lesnar took it.
that
But then
was,
he kept
4
wrestling.
4 years later.
Yeah,
right?
then he kept wrestling.
Right. They
He
thought
showed
that
up
was
on
gonna be the
Raw.
last
He
one.
showed up on Raw
Did he?
last Monday. No reason.
What an icon.
I mean, yeah, yeah, but like now it's like, no,
Oh man.
don't come out and just choke slam somebody.
That's Taker. Leave him alone, bro.
I can't say shit.
He's 6'9". Just
Yeah,
leave him
if you
alone,
can.
man.
I mean, I remember just I remember the Undertaker just being a figure in my head before I even started watching wrestling. Like I knew who the Undertaker was when I was a child before I even started watching wrestling. I started watching wrestling, and then like 2 weeks later, the Monday Night Wars just started, and then I was hooked.
Yep.
Because I just saw the peak of what the business could be, and two promotions battling each other. For those who missed the Monday Night Wars, Jesus, you
Go
missed
back
great
and-
television.
It was great.
Saturday mornings, bro.
Saturday mornings, bro.
That's when was the shit.
So you probably grew up in the late 80s and 90s with like superstars on Saturday morning.
Yeah. And that fucking Glow was
Glow?
on Saturday
Hell
morning.
Yeah. Glow.
So that was the late 80s was huge, man. And it got a little saturated.
Yeah.
And that's probably why the 90s, when I was in the business, wasn't so great.
Yeah.
Now the Attitude Era came in and changed the whole thing.
Right.
The big boom.
Right.
Yeah.
And but
There's a difference between the Bushwhackers and badass Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg Jesse
Right,
James.
right.
You know what?
those
I would say the perfect time for Vince to actually for him to do the healthcare thing would have been right when he bought WCW, because he knows right there he's the monopoly.
He's a monopoly.
He's the big guy. He should have stilled the
Yeah, how does he
health
get away with
program.
that? I thought we had like rules against that here.
listen, I think entertainment's different.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, look at Disney.
Oh, well, no, I mean,
Fucking
I
own
think it's just
everything now.
wrestling specifically. It is a very different form of entertainment. You can't really, like, how can you legally define a professional wrestler? Like, by what occupation? I mean, comedian, you can say entertainer. Wrestler, though, because of the stigma that carried with it, and because of wrestling trying to promote itself as real when it very first started,
Right.
it's kind of just been ignored in the media.
Professional choreographed fighter.
I guess.
Well,
But how do you tax that? How does, you know what I mean?
The same way you tax anything else that anybody else in a profession, like a sports profession. I would label it a sport.
yeah, okay. See, and that's where the gray line goes.
See,
man.
yeah, exactly.
So
Because
it's really not a sport.
It's an
man.
art.
It is an art form. That's
What rules
there's
do-
really nothing to compare it to.
It's performance art is what it is.
What rules does Broadway go by?
I don't fucking know.
Well,
What do
I'm
you
just
know?
saying,
Show
maybe we
tunes?
should.
Come
Well,
on.
I know the show tunes.
I know, and
I know the show tunes. I don't know the specifics.
So I think, okay. So I don't know that Broadway has a. I don't know they're not unionized, are they?
I actually.
No, I don't know either.
I know the show tunes.
Well, I know
don't know.
stand-up comics aren't.
There's probably a stage actors union, like there's the screenwriters
Probably.
Yeah,
guild.
the
Well, New York
stage-
City too. Yeah,
yeah.
There's a union.
Yeah.
No, we can't. I mean, comedians
they get the
are probably
Screen
the same
Actors
boat.
Guild,
We can't form a union.
You know,
Yeah,
just-
AFTA
Yeah.
and SAG, you
Yeah.
know, for entertainment, that probably covers all entertainment.
Comedians can't form union. We can only form Facebook groups. That's all. That's
Well,
all.
and you know, wrestling is the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, it would take everybody in the industry to
Put their foot
stand
down.
up
Yeah.
and put their foot down and say, we're not going to work, and you're going to have to go and get guys out of the freaking backyards and, you know, Arkansas.
and it would be so easy. Like I think the idea that is everybody we're all on board, but there's also the fear of the people not wanting to vote with that side, so it just fucks your numbers up. It's like voting on anything.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the top guys.
Yeah,
I
it's
guarantee it's
yeah.
the top half of the totem pole.
Yeah.
Because they're the guys making all the
Right.
money.
They don't want the fucking
The
union.
lower guys are like, hey man, like I can't even. Yeah. like-
Please, sir, can I have some?
Like I didn't make my car payment this month. You
Yeah.
know?
Right.
And the top guys going, well, you better. I couldn't make my car payment when I was where you were at.
Yeah. That's another impression I've got. You always have this guy that's been there longer
Well,
than you, and that's
it's
head
like
up going,
fucking
well,
capitalism.
I
They had to
freaking-
get there
yeah.
somehow. Also, they had to go through the same struggles.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all about that,
So I mean,
man,
unionizing is practically communism
Yeah.
in a sense.
Well, it's
Socialism.
It's having the ability to represent yourself, but that's really hard when nobody's. Okay, unions are based on everybody being on the same level, or seniority.
Yeah.
So-
But if you're a character, and
hard,
you know what I mean, and they go, well, how do you make an Intercontinental Champion and a WWE Champion equal when in the story they're not equal? But you formed a union and everybody has to be equal, and there's the fucking line, because it's a show, but it portrays itself as a show so good that it crosses legal lines. That's fucking insane.
Yeah. Well, it's totally unique, unlike
It's like
anything
what?
else.
Imagine the characters on Family Guy had rights. Like like just throw that.
What do you mean? We don't have rights.
Yeah. Just imagine, like that's pretty much the legal. Wow, what a fucking episode! This is amazing.
Yeah.
My mind is blown right now.
Good banner.
I think that probably what's going to have to happen is Vince's lawyers are going to probably say, "Hey, man,
You need
this is
to."
getting out of hand, man," and people are talking loss, and
They'll take the cheapest route possible.
exactly,
obviously.
you're exactly
They're-
right.
But they're going to do what they had to do to save face if this keeps going on.
The owner of the Jacksonville, it's funny you bring that up, because the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars and the son of Dusty Rhodes, for those of you outside of wrestling, Dusty Rhodes, historic wrestler, also great promoter.
Dustin Reynolds.
Dustin Reynolds, exactly.
Started.
his
He
son.
was there when I started, right here in Dallas.
There you go. Yeah. You know more than I do.
Gold Dust.
Gold Dust Dad, but
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
Cody, the youngest son, partnered with the Jacksonville Jaguars owner to form AEW, and they've already given Chris Jericho a monstrous contract
See,
that's
that's
luring wrestlers
that's new
away.
to me. I had no clue.
no idea.
Uh-uh.
Well, so that's giving wrestlers like just Dean Ambrose just left. It's giving wrestlers incentive again, just like the Monday Night Wars to leave WWE with this healthcare thing, with the independent contractor thing.
Sure.
A lot of wrestlers are quiet on Twitter, but you've been in a locker room, you've had that mentality. When something came up about like a promoter you didn't like, or maybe just like a workplace you weren't comfortable in, and you heard something about it, where the boys are like, fuck this place. Well, you can't say it out loud, but yeah, I hope they kind of do get in trouble for this.
Suck it the fuck up. That's what. Yeah. That's,
Yeah.
Like if somebody really was complaining, hey man, fucking pack your shit and go somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't like it.
Yeah, if you don't like it, then go somewhere else. And here's the problem with another organization. TNA is shit the bed,
Yeah.
and the other organizations are not even close to competing with Vince. I mean, they're just if there's a large independent. What's the one up in New York? Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor.
So they're hanging on by a thread, man, all the time. You know, I mean, okay, they're owned by a bigger company now, but they're on a shoestring budget, man. You know, the boys aren't making real money up there.
What keeps them alive is their recruiting territory for WWE.
Well, having the ability to partner with people, like Japan.
I was gonna say, what's the Japan one that's supposed to be doing really good?
Oh,
Right
New
now?
Japan, yeah. That helped spawn this AEW.
Chris Evans told me about that one.
Yeah, there you go. New Japan has helped spawn this AEW.
Yeah.
This rival organization.
So ECW was bought up with WCW and went to WWE.
Basically, well, what would be found out is Vince was actually funding ECW for a little bit to help with his war on WCW.
ECW was pretty dope.
It was. Now that needed health care. That really
Yeah.
did. And ECW.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus
Sandman,
Christ. If
Rob
you're going to
Van
make
Dam,
them do a
fucker.
barbed wire rope match, I want an HMO at ringside.
Dude, that fucking fight with Terry Funk and
Oh,
Cactus
Jesus.
Jack in Japan with the fucking
With the fires,
the
yeah.
fucking
The
barbed
bars.
wire.
You ever been
Yeah,
burned?
dude.
Have you done this?
That was
the
the
extreme
fucking
stuff?
So
Most intense shit.
in '96 or '97,
Hardcore matches were like a fucking.
so that was a big deal.
Yeah.
ECW was getting a.
This is the market share,
Yeah, man, they
basically.
were getting
Backyard
the market
wrestling
share.
was picking up.
So we went to work. Playboy Gary Hart reopened the Sportatorium, and do you know who that is?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So he was he's literally a wrestling genius,
Yeah.
and I would consider him my mentor, getting my first big, really big push in wrestling, because he started running the Sportatorium. Still no TV, however, we'd run every Friday, and we'd pack a crowd that now would be considered a pretty huge crowd. We'd get probably about 1,000 people in the Sportatorium.
Damn.
Which we would Sportatorium held about 5,000, somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000, if it was packed to the rafters.
We got a fifth of the club.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we were.
1,000's not bad.
So we
yeah.
would get 8,000-9,000 people a week, and we were running angles, and the people were showing. We were doing big shows about every 3 months, and he's the one that put me and my tag team partner together, who is Kit Carson, and he said, "Listen, come here. I got an idea. Call you in the office and say, Kid, come here. I got an idea. I'm going to get you boys over big. So I want you guys to come out, get rid of the spandex tights, get rid of the ring attire. I want you guys to wear cut off blue jeans and T-shirts with rock bands on it, and I want you guys to come down to the ring with a wheelbarrow full of shit, and you guys are going to be the Extreme Team." And he goes, no, hold on. You guys are going to be Team Extreme.
Oh, nice.
So that was his idea, and we ran with that gimmick. And at the time, I was working for Gary doing a German gimmick as Chris Germany. And then he brought me in the office and said, "Do you know the old wrestler Kurt Von Hess?" I was like, "Oh yeah, German, right? Yeah. All right, I see you doing this German gimmick. You remind me so much of it. Can I call you Kurt Von Hess?" I was like, "Listen, bro, if you're gonna push me, you can fucking call me whatever you want." And so I did that for a little while, and then he put us together as a tag team. Actually, Kit Carson, myself, and a guy named Jimmy James, and we were a 3-person team. So it was the Freebird rule. Which is you never know which two you're gonna have to wrestle out of the 3.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, which was a great idea, and of course Gary was the one that came up with the whole Freebird Von Erich feud anyway.
Yeah.
And I believe it was Christmas of '83 when Bam Bam slammed Kerry Von Erich's head in the cage door. That was all Gary's idea.
Yeah.
Gary was going to get his payoff and then go back to the Carolinas and work for Jim Crockett. So listen, if Gary Hart would have told me to jump up on a table and take a shit, it was going to get me over, I'd have done it in front of the whole crowd.
I've had some club owners
You
tell
just
me to
don't
do that.
Just don't question it.
Yeah.
So that's where we got our first push. And then after Gary shut down the Sportatorium, Kit and I ran with the whole Team Extreme gimmick and started going to what then was the National Wrestling Alliance, had reformed.
The NWA.
The NWA, because WCW had broken off from the NWA. And a big group of promoters had come together and reformed the National Wrestling Alliance.
Still around today.
And they're still, who owns it now? The guy from
I don't
Smashing
know.
Pumpkins, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Billy Corgan.
Yeah.
Billy
Billy
Corgan bought the NWA. I totally forgot about
I
that.
thought Dr. Dre would have.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's even weirder. Billy
Yeah,
Corgan.
Hanging out with a bunch of
Yeah.
comedians, you're always going to get jokes.
Yeah.
So we ran with that, and we worked for NWA Southwest, and there were territories all over the United States and into Canada that we would work our, and we eventually in '99 became their NWA World Tag Team Champions and ran for that for, I don't know, 6-8 months.
The original
Dope.
Team Extreme. And then how did you feel when the Hardys?
Okay, so this is how this happened. So we're doing a stint,
Yeah.
the five or six show stint with WWE, and they'll never team Kit and I together.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm still wearing my same gear that Gary put me in, the black shorts and the Team Extreme T-shirt, and we had gotten a pretty good following here.
Yeah.
And so we're up there and we're hanging out, and Matt Hardy comes by and he goes, "Hey man, cool T-shirt. I dig that Team Extreme. That's pretty cool." A couple months later, we go home, and guess what?
Oh.
The Hardy Boys are Team Extreme.
Oh, with Lita.
And I mean, we can prove we've had the name for several years. So Kit and I get together and we're like, "Hey man, let's go pay a lawyer and send them a cease and desist." So we did it, and they stopped using it.
Nice.
But now they come back. The Hardy Boys come back again, and they'll admit it. They know it.
Yeah.
They know they got the gimmick from
Wow.
us. But and whoever says they didn't, go look who was wrestling in the.
You still have any? I'm sorry. Do you still have any Team Extreme shirts? Can we get any? Are they
you know
online?
what?
Can we get any?
No.
I would rock a Team Extreme shirt.
I would rock that
I
shit, too.
may, well, if I get enough people on my Twitter and Instagram,
Oh,
yeah.
I may put those in production.
That would
for
be
you.
fucking
I love how
awesome.
he assumes we have listeners.
We will after this one for sure.
Yeah, no, that's the original Team Extreme. I remember when they broke up the Team Extreme and stuff, and the elitist Edge thing started happening. Well, I always wondered. I was like, why'd they break them? You hear it behind the scenes right
Well,
here.
I mean,
Goddamn Hardy
it
Boys.
just listen. The second time they brought them back, I don't know, a couple years ago or a year ago or whatever it was.
It was their redemption song.
Yeah, Kit and I we were like, I go, "You got an extra $1,000 to give a lawyer?" And he's like, "No, I don't." I'm like, "Fuck it, let them have it."
Yeah.
But it's good to hear that you believe that Vince should start putting these people, taking care of these people in and outside the ring.
I think eventually he's going to have to.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, it's once again. Let's talk about what they cleared last year.
Yeah.
It's really close to $1 billion.
There's no reason.
That's a
you
big
know?
deal. So what's gonna cost you the least amount of money? What's gonna, all right, so he's got to pay right now. Go ahead.
How many wrestlers do you think he has total on his roster?
212, and that's including NXT UK
Okay,
and
that's what I was
NXT
wondering with the
and-
offshoots and everything
no,
also.
so around 212 to 215.
And he made $1 billion last year.
So let's just say
You can give everybody $1 million for fucking healthcare,
Yep.
and still have
Easily.
$700 million.
Yeah.
okay. And on top of that, like let's think about how real employers do it, because I pay just as much for my health care as my employer does.
Yeah.
Right.
So now he's got guys that are having to pay into that in addition. Plus, if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't checked the tax laws that Trump fixed over, but I know he changed some stuff that's not deductible anymore.
Yeah.
But that's got to be deductible, right? Like
No.
that's a loss.
Yeah.
So okay, let's say he only makes $700 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a pretty substantial amount. But how much do you fucking need, man?
Exactly.
Right. What are you gonna do with all of it?
Right.
And the way you're projected, I mean, you're only gonna build, like just it's gonna keep going. Like no, wrestling, unless
He's
a huge,
printing money every day.
unless
Yeah,
he
so,
starts,
I mean-
unless he's caught funding terrorism, WWE's not going anywhere.
Don't
for
give
a
him any
while.
ideas
But
now.
look what
For
look
the
what he
next
can
tag
do.
team
Look what he can
champions.
do. And this isn't the first thing that's been thrown at Vince that he's been able to deflect the wrestling fans in another direction. And
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
he does know what he's doing. Before we decide who's to blame, let's talk about your stand-up, because you're not just a wrestler. You're also doing stand-up comedy. What are the differences in stand-up and wrestling that you've caught
They
on?
parallel.
They have a lot
so
of
much.
parallels. That's why the harder question is what's the difference?
Right.
Not taking a chair
You're
shot.
right. No, yes, really.
Well, unless you really want that laugh.
Listen, I've taken chair shots, of course, in the late '90s and early 2000s when I was taking chair shots. Like nobody knew about this concussion shit.
Yeah.
So we were protecting ourselves. We wanted to make the show look good.
Yeah.
And nobody ever thought, well, fuck, every time you get hit in the head with a goddamn chair, it got to the point where in the 90s,
Yeah.
especially the late 90s and early 2000s, you put your hand up, man, the boys in the back would go, you're pussy.
Really?
Yeah. Like we in fact,
I feel like
we
the
got to
healthcare-
point where you just go, all right, give it to me.
Yeah.
I
You know,
feel
put
like
your
the
hand up.
healthcare system hasn't been put in play just because of macho bullshit.
I was only putting my hand up to cut myself.
It's
That's
not,
it.
it's not. It hasn't been to evade taxes or anything.
I had
It's
a-
just like because they gotta suck it up.
God damn.
They gotta suck it up. They ain't paying for shit.
They're
Be a
sitting there
man.
drooling.
Yeah, it got to the point where I just had to figure out a way to not take those chair shots so bad, you know. I mean, they were doing it in New York. They were doing it in WWF at the time, and so we were like, well, fuck, we got to.
Well, stand up has to be better if you're just
I don't
like.
come off that stage bloody.
Yeah.
My nose is not fucked up, but sometimes my ego is fucked
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
You can come down dead inside. though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like I don't walk off injured physically, but sometimes I walk off that stage injured emotionally.
And what can listeners, if they come see you do stand up, what kind of material can they expect?
So right now, I got to this. I got to stand up a few months back, and I'm really trying to hack it out.
Yeah.
I came into getting into stand up with the full intention of learning this business from the bottom up. Like I didn't want any special treatment because of what I've done before. 16 years of entertainment plus 2 years in radio in Florida, and I wanted to come in. I came in because it was a challenge, and I wanted to learn this business and come in as a nobody, which fucking I really was never fucking somebody, but
Yeah.
but I
I think you're somebody as
appreciate
a
that.
wrestling
Somebody
fan.
out there probably does.
I'm like sitting here squirming because I'm like, no, you're not. You're so much more.
But I really wanted to. I wanted to learn this business and learn how. Now, okay, do I have an advantage against the 25-year-old kid who walks in here? Well, yeah, because I'm not afraid to get in front of a microphone.
Yeah,
And
in
I'm
front
not
of
afraid
people.
of people looking at me.
Yeah.
And I'm not.
He's not an ugly man. I don't know why he
I
says
appreciate
that.
that. But yeah, and tell my wife that.
Hey, wait, I have a question. What's your favorite wrestling movie? I know you've seen them, right?
Okay, I'll tell you. I would say The Wrestler, but
See, I
okay,
had.
hold on. Now I'm talking The Wrestler from '73.
Oh,
Seen
okay.
that?
Oh, I haven't.
Okay, so it's all AWA guys, and it stars the guy who played Lou Grant and was on Mary Tyler Moore. What's his name?
Oh, shit.
Ed Asner.
Ed
Yes.
Asner.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's the big promoter, and if you can struggle through it being from the 1970s,
Yeah.
it's actually a pretty good fucking movie.
No, there's another movie
Is it
in
a-
the 1970s.
Is it a comedy or is it like?
No.
Is it, it's a,
It's
You
more
remember
of
The
a
comedy.
Paper?
Okay,
I'm
so-
thinking like Slapshot for some reason.
I'm thinking The Paper, with Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
He works at the
Go
paper.
look it up. So the Wrestler, 73. It's pretty much, it parallels a lot of the
To the Mickey Rourke.
The Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
But it's an older wrestler, and he's come to the end of his career.
So not Mr. Nanny?
Uh-uh.
Not,
No,
any,
no.
not any Hulk's hits?
No holds barred.
That's
Yeah.
Listen, I was a no hold barred kid.
Yeah.
man.
Ready
It's
to
like, all
rumble?
right.
Nacho Libre,
Ready to
Okay.
rumble. Oliver Platt was in Ready to Rumble.
ready to rumble. Yeah,
I've
man.
always
Fucking
wanted to
David
ask.
Arquette and
I've
Scott
always
Connie.
wanted to ask Oliver Platt, like, what the fuck
Yeah.
were you thinking?
That's funny.
How fucked up is his ego that he's got to come back into the wrestling business?
Oh, Arquette?
Yeah. And make things good with the fans.
Yeah.
Because he's not sleeping at night because he won the WCW championship.
In his defense, it wasn't his decision.
Oh, yeah?
It wasn't.
Right.
No.
Really?
No, that was Russo. That was just Vince Russo just going fucking crazy.
I thought you meant the comeback.
Oh, the comeback? No. I don't think he'll be in the ring.
Somebody's holding a gun to his head?
I don't think he'll be in the ring winning. I hope
He's
not.
got to do
I'll
something to
stop
stay
watching.
relevant.
Well, you got
comedic influences, real quick before we do
Okay,
sign
all
off.
right. So,
Tell us who do you like in comedy?
now,
Yeah.
I got to say, I fucking love Ron White.
Love Ron
yeah.
And I
White.
don't mean the blue collar comedy Ron White, but that's, I mean, he worked on that material for fucking 20 years.
Yeah.
But the new Ron White that tries to write an hour every 2 years and then tour it,
Yeah.
holy
You love it, yeah?
fuck,
Yeah.
man. For him to reshape those ideas and still keep that persona that's really him
Yeah.
and tell those fucking unbelievable jokes.
Right.
That's unbelievable. Of course, all right, so I'm a huge Joe Rogan fan.
That was a
Okay.
great episode. I watched that one with
Ron
Ron White on there.
right.
Oh, yeah.
And he just seems
So
like...
naturally funny.
Yeah, and I met him, went and saw him when he was here.
He's an Arlington native.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
started at the Funny Bone
Yeah.
right there in Arlington, Texas. And a Texas native. I love Ron White. Love Joe Rogan. And I got to say, anytime they want me on Kill Tony,
Hey, he's coming back.
Fort Worth in
Yeah.
July, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's coming here also in September, I
Oh,
think.
no
Yeah,
shit.
no, thank you for being like such a cool guest.
Oh, yeah,
because I've listened to enough wrestling podcasts or whatever to know like wrestlers can kind of feel uncomfortable being in these types of interviews where it's just breaking kayfabe. You
Right.
know what I mean? A lot of people are still uncomfortable, and I appreciate it. And I can verify as a comedian for 13 years, Khris is very, very funny. So if he's putting up show dates, add him on the Twitter and Instagram, and when you
Please.
see his show dates,
Khris
go.
Germany, Khris, Germany like the country. Find me on Twitter. Find me on Instagram, please.
Germany like
Or
the
he'll
country.
powerbomb your fucking ass.
But he doesn't act like the country, thank God. Thank God. So, Jake, whose fault is this throughout the whole situation? Is it
Ooh.
Vince McMahon's fault for coming up with a great scheme to
Yes.
save himself a little bit of money?
Is Vince Vaughn part of the crowd?
Vince Vaughn? I'm talking about Vince
Oh,
McMahon.
Vince McMahon.
No, Vince Vaughn, that's another episode.
Okay.
He is at fault for so many other reasons, Vince Vaughn. I'm talking about Vince McMahon. Is it Vince McMahon's fault that he just thought of a way to save money? And is it Vince's fault that he's an asshole? Whose fault is it, Jake?
I don't know, man.
I'm gonna take a gander.
Who's that?
It's the crowd's fault. But it's
Always the crowd's fault.
But it's a very specific crowd. It is the wrestling crowd's fault. Because everything
Let
that
it go on for so long.
everything that Jon Oliver reported last week or 2 weeks, whenever it was, we've known about this. The problem with wrestling fans nowadays is we want the superstar to be the champ. And we don't care about the superstar and his health. We don't care about the superstar and his family.
This is the longest closing ever.
This is the longest closing ever because I'm a very passionate man, but it seems like I'm the only wrestling fan who said, yeah, great WrestleMania, but if those guys get injured outside the ring, they're still fucked.
Correct.
And that's why it's the crowd's fault, because
Correct.
I'm one of the only few who thinks that after watching WrestleMania.
So it's your fault. You're part of the crowd.
You are correct.
It's the crowd's fault.
I'm Dan. That's Jake. Thank you for tuning in. Khris, one more time.
Thank you.
Plug your Twitter
Thank
and
you.
Instagram one more time.
All right, Twitter, Khris, Khris, Germany like the country. Find me on Twitter at Germany, Khris, Khris. Come find me on Twitter and Instagram, please.
Bam, Khris Germany. Thank you so much for being here. Until next week, this is Crowd's Fault.